Elsewhere in our country tonight, the countryside is burning up. It is official now. It is the worst drought in a quarter century, and we're in it, and it's causing great damage to staple products people all over the world depend on from the U.S., like corn. Say nothing of livestock and property. NBC's Janet Shamlian is on the story tonight in Texas.
A withering pasture in Arkansas, reservoirs gone dry, and cracked earth now being seen throughout much of the nation. More than 1,000 counties have been declared natural disaster areas. Over the past 6 weeks, the drought has spread dramatically, now blanketing more than 60% of the lower 48 states, with some of the hottest months still ahead.
And when it comes to the big picture weather pattern and any significant changes to these drought-stricken areas, we're just not going to see any improvements, at least through the end of July.
The impact on agriculture is devastating. 30% of the corn crop is now in poor or very poor condition, up from 22% the previous week. Crops aren't the only casualty. Grazing grounds are barren, forcing ranchers to either buy feed for their hungry cattle or sell off their herds.
Food prices are going to increase. We are a nation that eats a lot of beef.
And uses a great deal of water. Indianapolis residents are getting in one last soaking before a mandatory water ban starts tomorrow. There is rain, but it's out of reach of the drought zone. Flash floods pounded Texas today, but forecasters say there's little chance it will reach those states so thirsty for relief. Janet Shamlian, NBC News, Houston.
Good God Almighty.
Okay, I don't know if you can hear this right now, but you can definitely see what's happening in the water. I think my car is probably going to have a window broken out. Okay, this is the biggest hailstorm I have ever witnessed in my life. That is hail. That bucket is catching it out there. Look at the hail out the window. Oh my gosh. Oh my gosh. This hail is ginormous and it's falling from the sky. Off the roof. Look at that.
Something strange was spotted in the sky above Pike County Tuesday.
At this point, there's still no explanation as to what it was, and people are left wondering what's flying over their heads. LEX 18's Adam Weiner has more.
These images, snapped by Alan Epling, has the man stumped. That's saying something coming from a long-time amateur astronomer.
I know a satellite when I see it. I track satellites with my ham radio and the telescope.
But this object is like nothing he's ever seen.
We were just sitting around talking, and she said there's a strange airplane in the sky.
So Epling went to take a closer look.
Like you had a giant mirror in the sky reflecting sunlight.
And he saw something very different.
And so I thought, well, there's a shiny helicopter or plane hovering up there. I'm going to look at it. I got my binoculars out, and when I looked through the binoculars, I was stunned. This was no helicopter, and this was no plane. And in fact, this is what I saw.
For 2.5 hours, he watched and photographed this object as it hung in the air until eventually it disappeared. And he wasn't alone. Police say they received numerous calls, and Epling found other observers online.
My name is Bridget Hessman, and I'm a planetary scientist at NASA's Goddard Space Flight Center, and I study storms on Saturn. A great white spot is a massive storm system that erupts on Saturn about once every Saturn year. The great white spot that erupted in December 2010 first presented itself as this fluffy white storm cloud that popped up in the northern hemisphere. The storm, when it erupted, sent large waves up into the stratosphere, and we saw effects like an increased amount of ethylene, something we never expected to see. In the coming days, the winds on Saturn sheared the storm in both directions, and it wrapped all the way across the planet. If you were to scale that to a storm system here on the Earth, what you would have is a storm system that covers all of North America but wraps around the entire planet. There'd be no escaping this storm system, and it would be lasting for a very long time. This great white spot happened to occur 10 years before we expected it, which was very fortunate because we happen to have a spacecraft called Cassini in orbit around Saturn. And that spacecraft has a full suite of instrumentation that allows us to study this over all wavelength ranges. Some of the effects that we got to see in the infrared were these two bright beacons that started to shine right after the storm erupted in December. Those beacons at first showed temperature differences of about 20 Kelvin, which is reasonable for a storm. However, as time progressed, we started to see even larger temperature changes. By May 2011, the two beacons had merged into one, and we saw a temperature change of over 80 Kelvin from the quiet conditions before the storm. So that would be like going from the depths of winter in Fairbanks, Alaska, to the height of summer in the Mojave Desert, all in one storm system.
Plans to allow scientists to create embryos that are part human and part animal are set for approval by the official regulator in Britain. These hybrid embryos are seen by the country's leading scientists as a vital step in the search for cures for diseases such as Parkinson's and Alzheimer's. It's a highly controversial procedure and is banned in some European countries. Our medical correspondent Fergus Walsh has the story.
This embryo is part mouse, part cow. In a few months, this Newcastle lab is hoping to create a human-cow hybrid. If that leaves you uneasy, the scientists here understand how you feel.
It does seem a little abhorrent from a first analysis, the fact that we're mixing bits of cow cells with bits of human cells, and people would automatically think, yeah, well, okay. But what you have to understand is that we're actually using very, very little information from the cow in order to do this reprogramming idea.
This is highly complex science, the creation of cytoplasmic hybrids, known as cybrid embryos. The starting point is a cow's egg, which is cut open by a laser. The DNA is sucked out. The next step is to take a human cell, perhaps from a patient with Parkinson's disease, and inject it into the egg. Now, this is the crucial point at which an embryo is created, because by using an electric shock, the hybrid embryo starts growing. The cells...
Hurricane Sandy is such an unusual storm, a once-in-a-generation event. Sam is leading our team coverage this morning from Lower Manhattan. And Sam, what exactly makes Sandy so different and so powerful?
Oh, George, there's a huge list about this storm. But first, let's start with the size of this thing. We're going to show you the 3D satellite view, and you're going to see these clouds that stretch from, well, really Bermuda all the way up the coastline, take it to Hudson Bay in Canada and beyond to the Arctic Circle.
Teardown of trees.
Oh, my God. Oh, my God.
16-year-old John Mateer taping it all from his window in Waton, New York. First, a neighbor's tree.
Oh, my God.
Then a tree snaps in their front yard.
It hit your car, oh my God.
And if that wasn't enough, one more.
Oh, the car! I got that all on
And maybe there is no clearer example than this of how softened soil cannot hold these big trees. Watch the earth start to heave. Uh-oh. Matthew Weinschreider in Huntington, New York knew there was nothing he could do but watch and tape that big tree going down. Dramatic, but these trees have also proven deadly. This is North Salem, New York, where two boys were playing and watching TV in the family room when this 100-foot oak slammed into the home. A scene repeated too many times across the country.
It's like the apocalypse is hit. It's like the apocalypse is hit. It is now 10 o'clock. With the flames menacing, the forces of nature finally deal a trace of good fortune to the neighborhood. The tides turn and the water mercifully recedes, low enough for the LaPeras and others to make a desperate escape.
Next time there's a large storm, I'm just gonna leave. It's not worth it.
Many here expected that there would be flooding, there would be loss of power, but then this fire just erupted.
As Jim reports from the scene, an explosion in the distance. Cars are blowing up.
That's where we parked. It's all gone.
We moved from one spot to the next spot, and we finally got, to all places, a Roman Catholic church. That was like the moment I was like, okay, we're gonna be all right.
We don't know where they're going to take us. We don't know. Don't know.
So defiant just hours earlier, the residents are now grateful to have survived. Today, firefighters standing watch could barely believe the sight of the devastation.
Have you ever seen anything quite like this?
I haven't seen anything like this in my career. The only thing that came close to this was 9/11.